All right, so welcome to another deep dive. Today we're doing something kind of different.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna put you, the listener, right in the driver's seat, but
Mhm.
not just any driver's seat. We're talking about a bus driver job interview.
Interesting.
Yeah, and to help us navigate this, we've got this really interesting guide from Indeed.com.
Okay.
I know, I know. You might be thinking bus driving, but
Yeah.
stick with us
Right.
because trust me on this, there's way more to it than just like turning a big steering wheel.
Right.
And honestly, who knows? Maybe by the end of this deep dive, you might even be thinking about a career change.
You never know.
Right. So one of the first things that really jumps out from this guide is how it goes beyond just the whole, driving part.
I think that's what's really fascinating about this guide.
Exactly. It emphasizes these other skills that you need, like problem solving, communication skills,
Okay.
even being a safety advocate.
It's almost like being an ambassador, but like on wheels.
Yeah, I like that. An ambassador on wheels. So
Yeah.
true.
And one of the things that stood out to me right off the bat was the emphasis on navigation skills.
Yeah. They talk about outstanding navigation skills, which at first you might think, well, that's obvious.
Right. You just got to know the route. Right.
Exactly. But it's so much more than that.
It is, because think about it.
Yeah.
Traffic patterns, detours,
Mm-hmm.
construction.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, your perfectly planned route is out the window.
And you got to think with your feet.
I got to adapt. And a skilled bus driver, they can anticipate these things and adjust.
And it's not just about, like we said, getting from point A to point B. You've got passengers,
Right.
and they might need information.
Exactly.
Imagine someone asks, where's the nearest library? A great bus driver not only knows the route, but can offer helpful information along the way.
They're almost like familiar with the community they serve,
Yeah.
like a walking, or I guess, driving encyclopedia of local knowledge.
I love that. Okay, so now here's where things get even more interesting. This Indeed guide, they really hit hard on the importance of excellent customer service skills,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense. You're interacting with all sorts of people.
All walks of life.
Totally.
And it's all happening within, this kind of unique dynamic.
Oh, yeah, shared space.
Exactly.
And that can create some,
It can. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes in.
Right. And this guide, they even give this really great example.
Oh, yeah.
It's about handling a passenger who refuses to pay the fare.
A classic.
Seriously,
Sure.
you're right. But how they describe the ideal response,
What do they say?
it really reveals the core skills that a bus driver needs.
I'm curious, instead of just, summarizing the anecdote,
Yeah.
let's really unpack this.
Okay.
What does it tell us about, like, the mindset of a great bus driver?
You're right. Let's dive into that. Because it's not just about staying calm in the moment
Right.
and explaining the rules, but how you do it respectfully,
Absolutely.
but also, firm.
You got to be firm.
And you can't let it disrupt everyone else's ride.
Exactly. That's the real finesse.
It really is. It makes you appreciate just how much bus drivers deal with every day.
Right.
They're like, I don't know, the unsung heroes of public transit or something.
Oh, absolutely. Navigating all these complex social dynamics, but always.
With grace under pressure.
Totally. And it really shows how crucial their role is
Hmm.
in keeping things running smoothly.
Right. And keeping everyone safe.
Yeah,
Right?
that too.
Which brings us to, this is a big one.
Huge.
Safety consciousness.
That's got to be top of mind.
Absolutely. And this guide, they really go deep on this.
They do. They emphasize this, like, multi-layered approach.
It's more than just, I know the traffic laws. Right.
So much more.
There's a whole other level to it.
It's about being proactive, not just,
Reactive.
like constantly checking your mirrors, anticipating,
What could happen?
exactly,
Yeah.
hazards, like pedestrians, cyclists, things like that.
Bad communication.
Yes. Staying in touch with dispatches.
Right. Knowing about any road closures or delays.
It's about creating this culture of safety for yourself and everyone on board.
Speaking of which, they have this question in the guide.
Oh.
What would you do if the bus broke down mid-route?
Oh.
What stuck out to you about their answer to that one?
Honestly, the emphasis on staying calm, even when things get really stressful.
Yeah.
Imagine you're driving a full bus and suddenly engine dies.
Oh, no.
Your first thought might be to panic, but a good bus driver, they know they have to think clearly.
It's not just about fixing the bus then.
No, it's about managing the whole situation.
You're right. The guide stresses following protocol.
Yeah, like contacting dispatch right away,
Letting the passengers know what's going on.
keeping everyone calm, providing updates
It's like a masterclass in leadership.
under pressure.
It's a great question for our listeners too, right?
It is.
What would you do if that happened to you?
Makes you think.
And, just thinking about all these unexpected situations,
It'd be so stressful,
I can only imagine.
especially with a bus full of people all relying on you.
Yeah, and this Indeed guide, they have some really insightful tips.
Oh, like what?
Well, let's dive into that.
Okay.
It's really amazing how this Indeed guide, it
Yeah.
just keeps revealing these layers.
Like an onion.
Right, like all these hidden things about bus driving that you wouldn't think about.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
way more complex than it seems at first glance.
Totally. And we've already talked about like navigation, customer service.
Staying calm under pressure.
Right. But there's still so much to uncover.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
So one thing that really stood out to me,
Yeah.
it's how much they emphasize staying up to date with all the,
The rules and regulations. right?
exactly, traffic laws.
It makes sense, though, right?
Oh, for sure. But
Right.
it's easy to just, I don't know, get complacent.
Especially if you've been driving for a while.
Yeah, you think you know it all.
This guide makes it clear, though.
Oh, yeah.
Complacency, that's a no-go in this profession.
It's about constantly learning.
Not just relying on what you learned years ago.
Exactly. So it's not enough to just say, I follow the rules.
Right.
What kind of answer do you think would really impress an interviewer?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, what would make them think, okay, this person's serious?
Mine and someone says, I make it a point to review the updated traffic laws handbook every, say, quarter,
Wow.
just to make sure I'm on top of any changes. Or maybe they talk about taking those defensive driving courses,
Oh, yeah.
or even subscribing to industry newsletters, to stay in the loop.
That shows dedication.
It does.
It's not just clocking in and out.
It's about taking pride in what you do.
And doing things the right way, even when no one's watching.
Exactly. That's real professionalism.
Okay, there's another question in this guide that really got me thinking.
Which one?
It's, can you describe your process for inspecting a bus before a trip?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta admit, I never really thought about that.
But it's so important,
You don't want to hit the road with a faulty vehicle.
especially when you're responsible for so many people.
Right. So walk me through this. What does a thorough inspection even look like?
Okay, so picture this. You're at the bus depot,
Mm-hmm.
about to start a long route.
Okay.
First things first, you got to check those fluid levels.
Oh, right.
Engine oil, coolant, brake fluid,
Making sure everything's topped up.
and within the recommended range, of course.
Then what?
Then you move on to the brakes.
Okay.
Make sure they're responsive, engaging smoothly.
Gotcha.
And, of course, you inspect the tires.
Not just for tread depth. Right.
Right. Any signs of damage, uneven wear,
Yeah.
you got to catch it all.
I'm getting overwhelmed just listening to all this.
Uh-huh. I know, right? But a good bus driver, they have a system.
Like a checklist.
Exactly. They make sure every single thing is checked.
Before they even start the engine.
It's all about minimizing risk, prioritizing safety.
It's almost like, I don't know, a surgeon prepping for surgery or something.
That's a great analogy.
Right. Everything has to be perfect.
It's that level of attention to detail that really sets the best apart.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second.
Okay.
Another scenario this guy dives into.
Yeah.
What happens if a passenger has a medical emergency
Oh, wow.
while you're on your route?
That's got to be tough.
It is. You got to think fast.
And stay calm.
Exactly. What's the best way to approach a question like that in an interview, you think?
I think it's about showing that you have a clear plan of action,
Okay.
laying out the steps you would take.
Okay, so
Be
for
pulled over safely, of course.
right, safety first.
Then assess the situation, contact emergency services.
911.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And while you're waiting,
Yeah.
you reassure the passenger, provide any basic first aid if you can,
Okay.
all while making sure everyone else on the bus is safe and comfortable.
It's about being that calm presence in a chaotic situation.
Absolutely. It's about knowing your limits, but also stepping up when you need to.
So it's not just about driving skills.
It's about so much more.
Okay, we can't forget about feedback and complaints.
Oh, right.
I imagine bus drivers get their fair share of those.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Dealing with so many different people.
And traffic, delays.
Well, things can lead to, some unhappy passengers.
So how do you handle that gracefully?
It's about showing those interpersonal skills,
Okay,
staying professional, even when someone's upset.
makes sense.
You want to show that you value their feedback.
Even if it's negative.
Exactly. And that you're committed to good customer service.
What would be a good way to answer that question in an interview then?
Imagine a passenger is complaining about a delay.
Okay,
Instead of getting defensive, you acknowledge their frustration.
right.
Listen to what they have to say. Apologize for the inconvenience.
And then,
Explain the situation clearly. Tell them what you're doing to fix it.
but stay calm the whole time
Exactly. It's about turning a negative into a positive.
and showing that you care about their experience.
Exactly.
Okay, here's one that threw me for a loop. How have you used communication technology in your previous roles?
That's interesting.
I was like, wait, what?
Uh-huh. I can see why that seems out of place.
But then I thought, well, it is a tech-driven world now.
And bus driving involves technology too, right?
GPS systems, communication devices.
Maybe even onboard Wi-Fi these days.
So what kind of experience would be good to highlight here?
Think about any time you use tech to communicate effectively.
Okay.
Like, did you use a dispatch system in a previous job?
To coordinate things.
Or maybe you handled customer service through email or online platforms.
Oh, I see.
Or used GPS navigation to plan routes.
So anything that shows you're comfortable with technology.
And that you can use it effectively in a work setting.
It's about showing that you're adaptable.
They're open to new tools that make things better for everyone.
Exactly. Makes sense. All right, so we're back for the final stretch of this deep dive into, well, bus driving.
You know, this Indeed guide, it just doesn't quit.
It really doesn't. Still so much good stuff to unpack.
I think what's really interesting about this last part,
Oh, yeah.
it's how much they focus on, like, the human side of the job, you know?
It's not just about the technical skills.
Oh, exactly.
Like, let's talk about stress and fatigue.
Oh, yeah. Especially on those long hauls.
I can only imagine.
This guy, they really stress the importance of self-care.
Makes sense. You got to stay sharp.
It is. And it's not about just, pushing through exhaustion.
Right, got to know your limits.
Exactly. Taking care of yourself is part of being a professional driver.
So, if you're in that interview, right,
Mm-hmm.
what are some good ways to talk about how you handle stress?
Well, a good answer might be something like, I always make sure to take breaks.
Even if you're on a tight schedule?
Even then, get out, stretch your legs, clear your head.
Ah.
Or maybe you say, I like to listen to calming music while I drive.
Oh, yeah. Or like podcasts.
Exactly. Or even mindfulness exercises.
Yeah.
Anything to stay focused and relaxed.
It shows that you're taking it serious.
It does. That you care about your own well-being and the safety of your passengers.
Okay, now let's talk about, oh boy, this one's a biggie.
Uh-oh.
Driving in bad weather.
Yikes.
I'm talking torrential rain,
Oh, no.
blinding snowstorms, icy roads, the whole 9 yards.
That's when you need all your experience and judgment.
It is. And you got to stay calm.
Can't let the stress get to you.
So what would be like a really impressive answer in this situation?
Instead of just saying, I'm a good driver in bad weather,
Right? Got to be more specific.
maybe you share a story like, I once had to drive through a mountain pass during a blizzard.
Whoa.
I slowed way down, kept a safe distance from other cars,
Smart.
and I was always in communication with dispatch, getting updates on the conditions.
Shows that you can handle the pressure.
Exactly. And that you know how to adapt to changing circumstances.
All right, this next one, it kind of threw me off guard at first.
What is it?
Can you handle basic repairs and maintenance on the bus?
Interesting.
I was like, wait, isn't that what mechanics are for?
Right. But I think it's about showing resourcefulness.
Oh, I see.
Like, what if you're in the middle of nowhere and you get a flat tire? Knowing how to change it yourself.
Could be a lifesaver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could save everyone a lot of time and hassle.
So what kind of basic skills should you talk about in the interview?
Things like checking the fluid levels,
Oh,
replacing a blown fuse, maybe knowing how to jumpstart a dead battery.
those are good to know in any situation.
They are. And it shows you're not afraid to get your hands dirty.
Right. You're taking ownership.
Exactly.
Okay, and finally, we're back to that human element.
Mm-hmm.
This guide, it talks about calming down a nervous passenger.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Because at the end of the day,
It's about people.
it is. It's about making sure everyone on board feels safe and comfortable.
So what would be a good way to answer that question?
I'm stumped.
Well, instead of just saying, I'd tell them not to worry,
Yeah, that's not very helpful.
you could say something like, I'd offer them a friendly smile, maybe chat with them a little.
Distract them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ask about their day, where they're headed.
And maybe give them some info about the route.
Yeah, let them know what to expect.
Makes them feel more at ease.
Exactly. It's about that personal touch, going the extra mile.
Being more than just a driver.
Right. You're almost like a host, making sure everyone has a good experience.
Wow. This has been quite the deep dive.
It has.
We covered so much ground.
From navigation and safety.
To customer service and even psychology.
Who knew bus driving was so complex?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Why?
I have a newfound appreciation for bus drivers.
Me too.
They really are the unsung heroes of our communities, keeping things running smoothly day in and day out.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It makes you think about all the people who work behind the scenes.
The ones we often take for granted.
Exactly. So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Hmm.
I want to leave you with one final thought. How does knowing all this about the complexities of bus driving, how does it change your perspective?
That's a great question.
And what other unsung heroes do we encounter in our daily lives? The ones who make our world go round.
Something to ponder, for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring.